Okay, so I'm here live. We're here live from Isaiah's bedroom. Isaiah is my 21-year-old son. He's a graduating senior at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, where he spent most of his time studying at the Atlanta campus. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Valerie Williams. I am a licensed therapist. I am a coach. I'm a communication strategist, and above and beyond everything else, I am a mommy. Everyone who knows me knows that I am so super proud of my boys. I have two boys. Again, Isaiah 21, and then my youngest Cameron is 12. Isaiah has just been such a rock star child. Um, blueprint, and nothing that I try to take credit for. I always tell him above and beyond everything else that he is a good person, first and foremost. Just such great character and integrity, a good heart, sweet, charming, a pain in the ass sometimes because he's stubborn like his mama. But just a great kid, dedicated, focused. Isaiah, we can talk about this a little bit during this chat, but I would say he became more focused on his academics probably junior year of high school.
Yeah, junior. Yeah, junior year.
Yeah, so it wasn't that he was a bad student before. It just took what my husband would say as sometimes he just needed, you had to keep your foot on his neck sometimes. But he's always been our creative kid, so interested in everything digital media and um, just in arts and things along those lines. But I think it was like junior year where it finally clicked, where you realized like the academics was going to be important in
Yeah,
terms of everything you wanted for your future.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that was definitely part of it. And just knowing I was fully capable of it. I think once I actually like was on top of everything and kind of did it one time, I seen how I could replicate it or do it again.
Mm,
You
yeah. So, but anyway, I just say that to give you guys some insight in terms of his academic journey because I wanted to spend time today really talking more in detail about where he is now as a graduating senior amidst this global crisis. Um, what I'm finding is that we, as a culture, we're spending a lot of time talking about the fact that these kids won't get a formal graduation ceremony, or either it's delayed for a year, or that some high school seniors are missing things like proms, and those things are unfortunate because they're important milestones. Um, but I think we minimize the um, emotional impact of not being able to participate in those kinds of things and what they represent. And so I really wanted to spend some time just checking in with him around, like, from a mental health perspective, what does this mean outside of the fact that you won't officially walk in May. And for college seniors in particular, the commencement ceremony doesn't just represent the culmination of 4 years of study, 4 or 5. It took our graduate 4 because we told them we weren't paying for anything beyond that. But outside of what that commencement ceremony represents in terms of an opportunity to be recognized on a platform, have your family come and celebrate, beyond that, what it means in terms of just your next steps from a life stage perspective. Like, that moment also represents the beginning of the next journey, and that is like adulthood to just real life adulthood, kind of transition into the point where there's an expectation that you take care of yourself, that you find the right job, to establish means where you can take care of yourself.
know.
And for the most part, students start to get excited about that prospect, nervous, but still there's a certain level of excitement. And with so much uncertainty right now, dreams literally like evaporated in real time and unexpectedly and very quickly. And so I just think that, there's an opportunity for us to have the open dialogue with our kids about how it's really impacting them when your future is unsettled, and to go from a place, and like Isaiah, I want you to share your experience, but what I noticed is like when you left after Christmas break, you left on a high. Like you said, you had a great time with family, you got a chance to relax, recharge, and I was like, okay, I'm just going in, the finish line is in sight. Yeah. And I'm just about to hit it. And you hit the ground running, and so you started reaching out about internships and just putting things in motion for that next step to have a nice transition. And now it's kind of like, again, everything's evaporated. So tell me about like where you were in January. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in January, like, that was my biggest thing, was just to go into this year and like a very positive note, just reflecting on my previous year. Like junior year, I was kind of like confused. I was transitioning from leaving Savannah, going back to Atlanta, just kind of seeing how I wanted to, like, I was just in a more confused state. But I think going into this year, I was just kind of super focused, because even closing out, fall quarter, just making sure kind of things were, just getting everything kind of in place, because I had been on that strive of looking for an internship, because my ultimate goal was to have an internship that I can count for a class. Like, I know that was the biggest thing that I wanted, because one less class at SCAT is, a dream. So that's why, that was like my biggest goal, was like, not only that, because that was just something that I wanted to do. All the jobs that I had done weren't necessarily related. I mean, I did have an internship previously related to the film field, but I wanted to have something in Atlanta that was related to film. So that was just my whole thing, was just going into a positive mindset and really just, grinding and not getting, frustrated, because at that point too, I saw the end, so I knew everything kind of wasn't, and nothing was uncertain. So, I mean, of course I was just, more in the upbeat. I had a lot of stuff going on around it, but my motivation was that, the end was coming. I was going to get, cross the finish line to the next stage, and, the ending is always the most important part, in my opinion, and that was my thing, is like, I came in strong, so I wanted to, finish off strong, so.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I know we were, as parents, we were starting to get worried about, not necessarily worried about him, but some concern, because the quarter was grueling, and it was like one of his busiest ever. I remember in one of our conversations, you were just saying, like, there's never been a time in my life where I have something to do every single day. Yeah. And so we were just like, concerned, because he was so overwhelmed. We knew he would get through it, but we knew like it was tough as hell for him. But a solace for us was the fact that, again, graduation is right around the corner, and that would be the conversations we would have via text too, or when we talked on the phone and you were stressing, we're like, just get to the finish line. Graduation is right around the corner.
Yeah, and that's something I said. Like, of course, like, they weren't about to just give me the diploma easier. It wasn't just about to be, easy. And I think that's why, that quarter was, the most intense. Like, I mean, it just, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think what's different now is, again, not having, like you said, where everything was lined up, not having that. So then how do you continue to stay motivated and focused? I know at this point you're going to get the degree.
Yeah,
that's not
of course.
a question, but where are you as far as like just motivation?
I mean, I feel like it's definitely forced, because the type of person I am, I'm motivated a lot by like the things that's going on around me, or just the energy around me. So of course, if I'm feeling down, I'll find something to do. If it's not music, or, working on, a film project for school, or just something creative that's going to, keep me motivated. But it's different when there's so much, stuff going on, where it's kind of like, things are kind of at a standstill. So it's almost like I don't like forcing anything. So sometimes I feel like I'm forcing my motivation with kind of like an uncertainty, like, what's going on. I kind of feel the same way about, my classes and stuff too, because, the expectation for us, finishing our big senior project was, it goes through this big judgment process. Not saying that, it was a, what am I trying to say? Like a challenge, but it was like even getting to go through that judgment process and getting your film screened and all that, like that was all about to be part of the journey. So now we just kind of speaking in class like, oh, hypothetically, because of everything that's going on, it's kind of like the motivation just isn't there. Of course, I'm gonna do what I have to do and do well to graduate, but just as far as even being motivated in those areas, it's just different because everything's kind of at a hypothetical, or like when things get better. So I mean, that's it is it definitely does like make you kind of more you can be down about it because of especially being in the creative field, just where your job relies on people and like working a team and stuff like that, and that kind of gets eliminated. It's more difficult, and then just also leading into just like graduating, transition to the next step with uncertainty. It's already the uncertainty if life was normal, because you don't know what's about to be the next step. So just with things going on, like it is kind of you get like sad, not like sad about it, but definitely motivation. Like I don't want to stay down about it, but I just try to find things that are gonna keep me motivated. I may just have to force it, but I rather make something out of it than nothing at all.
Yeah, and but that's one thing that and we obviously talked about this off camera when he first came home. He was in Atlanta and he just came back home, I guess a week ago. So I had an opportunity to check in real life. But you said it a couple times, but you moved through it quickly when you said it, and you said down and you said sadness. So let's talk about that. And I know you don't really like talking about when you're sad because you don't want to go to that place. But for me and for everyone else who might be experiencing the same thing, or just to try to explain to people what the experience really is, besides not having an opportunity to shout your name on graduation day, emotionally, what this experience is like.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like not only have I worked hard, but just we all have worked hard. Like this has just all been like a journey for everybody. Like these literally last 4 years. I would even really include the ending of high school too, like transitioning into going to college. Has been like we've all been developing and growing, and just me myself, I've matured. Like just as far as conversation goes, or just like finding ways to express myself, or us having different opinions, or just understanding how finding my true work ethic, and just things like that. When you work so hard, just like trying to figure yourself out and find yourself out, for this to kind of, I don't want to say the end, but like I don't know, it just wasn't what I expecting. It just makes you, I don't know, kind of just I feel down about that, because I feel like I worked so hard, and I feel like many people have worked hard, and I think that's the big thing about students in college, or really anybody my age in general, like this portion of life, that 18 to 21 time of developing, whether it's 4 years in school or 4 years in the world, you're still doing a lot of development during this time. So for it to kind of get to this point where you reached a new like milestone, that uncertainty, it just like but so much you can do. So I mean it does sadden me, because like you kind of put in a hard work for I know I didn't put it in for nothing. Like I know I still want to get my degree. I know I still maintain a GPA. Like that was the big thing for me, like in general. So I mean I know I did all those things, but the uncertainty of the transitioning point is like it's kind of down, because it's like I don't want to say I did it all for nothing, because you don't know the future. Things could things are going to eventually get back up and running, but I think that's where kind of sadness and like confusion stems from, is like the just like the hard work that was put in, and it's kind of like it's just things are at standstill, so it just kind of has me in like a lost place. I don't know, but I think that's really what it is. Just it wasn't easy. That's the only thing I'll say about this. Like I know I made it make it look easy, but I definitely like have the joy of doing my stuff outside of school too, but then also doing the stuff inside of, I'm doing stuff for school, but that's not easy in itself. So it's like nothing about the journey was like easy. So it's like that constantly, learning not only education wise, but about yourself and people and life and family relationships and etc. Like that was like a lot of hard work. Of course, it's still gonna be beneficial to the future, but not kind of having a sense of like what it's gonna look like is it's fear. You become fearful and uncertain. I forget what the saying is, but like when you're kind of uncertain, but there's fear and stuff that you're uncertain about. So I guess that kind of sums up the feeling, of like that kind of sadness, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a feeling that you haven't had to have in a very long time.
Yeah, definitely.
I think like I mentioned when we started, like Isaiah, his focus is just like even beyond what I can accomplish at times, and I think he's always been like super specific about what he was working towards, and probably in part because you just don't like the feeling of like not knowing. Yeah, and so he has been disciplined in a way where for the most part he could order his steps, and to not have that, like this is a new old new feeling.
Yeah,
something like.
I mean, I think too though, because even in the standpoint, I could say like junior year, senior year, kind of figuring out the college thing and just reflecting how I had to work harder towards the end to even have the possibilities I had. At least there, it was kind of like options to where like, okay, I know I want to go to college, so that can happen. I know like there's still a way to transition into the next phase versus like, okay, I know, of course I had my options before. I kind of had a layout of how I wanted to move about things, but it's like things are kind of on standstill and those options are kind of on hold. So you have to work, in smaller increments versus looking at things from like larger increments. So, I mean, I guess that was the point that you were saying about school, like the transitioning period.
Yeah, and I think when you're working hard, it's always easier, I think, to have some clear goals in mind. I'm one for just putting one foot in front of the other, even when you're not specific about what you're working towards. But when you have that goal, even if it's just a high level goal, like graduate and get a job doing something that I love, not necessarily being specific about, okay, what company, what state, what salary, like those are things that you can have some reference points as far as that is concerned. But to go to a place where you're working towards something specific, to where now you're working because you're going to do what you need to do, but there isn't this specific thing right in front of you anymore, is a loss.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't think that's what it is. As just having an idea. I mean, I guess this is kind of personal to me too, just because when I have an idea or I kind of envision stuff, I know it's not gonna happen in the way that I specifically wanted to, but I know it's gonna happen in a way, whether it's the path I envisioned or the path that that's naturally gonna happen. So I think that's kind of the case. Like I said, like with the whole internship, like I knew I wanted to have an internship for my senior year. That was something in my field, something that I was gonna enjoy, and I made that happen. So once I got there, I feel like, okay, that's one kind of checkpoint into the direction I'm going. And then during that time, I was still applying to like a bunch of other jobs and stuff because internship, you don't know where it could go. So I still wanted options. So then even having another offer for a summer internship, and then that kind of had me just kind of amped up in a direction to where like now those things are kind of up in the air. I mean, the relationships with everybody is just everything up in the air. It's kind of like and I think I said to you too, like, of course, like you can't be in control of everything, but that sense of not having control over your life, and I think that was a big thing that really helped me with like I would get really anxious or just worried about things, and that was me kind of like realizing, okay, I'm in control. I'm not in control of everything, but you can be in control of like a lot of the things that happen in your life, whether it's your mood or what you want to get accomplished or what you think's holding you back or etc. You can still take control of those things. So I think that element kind of losing that sense of control as far as like what's next is like what kind of ultimately bothers me the most, because I feel like I was getting to a point where like I would set out a goal, and no matter what else was going on, I knew that I had this goal and I wanted it to happen, so I was planning to make it happen. So it's like looking at this, I guess that's something I can think about just from talking about this now is, okay, with everything going on, what's a goal that I can set? I mean, I know what I want, but what's the goal I can set despite everything that's going on, and how, you know, can I get there? Not saying that's the path that it will happen. I mean, that's not the path that it may like happen in, but that is going to happen, you know, in general. So I don't know, but I think I feel like that's how probably a lot of students may feel, because I mean, if you know, going through college is not like I said, it's not an easy thing. So, you know, just having those goals and thinking how you can, you know, get to it could be a sense of motivation. But I think not. You know, I mean, I understand like I'm supposed to be expressing. You're supposed to express how you feel, but I try not to like focus on it or like highlight it or like kind of, I don't want to say ignore your feelings, but like find ways to you know, uplift yourself. But it's hard.
But it's hard. And so I think there's one thing to like acknowledge your feelings doesn't mean you need to just stay there and be sad and miserable. I just don't want you or others to feel like if I acknowledge the fact that I'm sad, I'm down about this, then, you know, that means I'm just going to have to be in this steady state of sadness. Because no matter how hard you try, like I know, you know, I recognize right away as soon as you came home, that you're doing exactly what you said you're doing. You're trying to motivate yourself. So no, it's not like you've been in your bedroom crying since you've been here, but you're having some real emotions behind it. And the reality is too, that this situation is unprecedented, at least in our lifetime. So no one can sit and say exactly how they would feel as a senior, you know, about to graduate, and then all of a sudden your opportunities are limited to non-existent because we don't know what's going to happen next. So I think we all need to appreciate the fact that this is a very unique experience, and a pretty traumatic experience as well. And just because we call it traumatic, again, doesn't mean that we need to sit in a state of depression, but we need to be able to admit that, so you allow yourself to feel how you're feeling. You're not fighting that, because that's what will take all the energy away from you. Just by constantly trying to fight the fact that you're feeling that way, or the energy that's required to stay motivated. Whereas that was pretty natural before to stay motivated because you had all these things to look forward to.
Yeah, most definitely.
Now all of that's having to come from inside. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy and effort. And if you don't allow yourself the space to just be like, man, like, this is pretty shitty, then you can't allow yourself the opportunity to care for yourself in a way that you need to be cared for, and allow others to care for you in a way that you need to be cared for. Like as a parent, I'm trying to find the right level to not like over coddle, to not be all up in his space. But as a parent, it saddens me as well, because I'm excited about all the opportunity. I'm excited getting those phone calls while you're away when, you know, you get a call from somebody, or I got this experience, so I'm working on this project. And I mean, we talk a couple times a week about just your project. Isaiah's a film student. We'll have to state that at the beginning. Somehow, but Isaiah's a film student working on a documentary as his senior project. And it was fascinating for us to watch him, to hear what he learns, for him to then explain it to us. Just the excitement, like as parents, this is the payoff for, you know, every investment that we've made in him. And so we were at a point where we're feeling like, you know, the investment is well worth it, and their happiness and their pride in themselves is the reward. And we too obviously was certainly looking forward to that moment in May to celebrate and act the entire fool. So there is some sadness. I mean, I cried the day that I got the note, or you text me first, and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then went online to see it because, again, it was just a milestone that we were all looking forward to celebrating with him. And of course, I'm biased, but I just feel like he deserves it. I don't want to say much more than others, but if no one else deserves it, he does, because he literally put in the work. Like it's just being a good student, Dean's List, also focusing on his music career, and being just a good person and a good kid. Like this is your moment that you deserve. And so, we have to deal with our feelings around it too as parents. So, and also not just graduation, but like what we're experiencing in the middle of this crisis in terms of, work and managing home and making sure everybody stays safe. Yeah. So it's like, the reality is we're caring for ourselves, but at the same time we need to care for you. And so, not that it's any kind of burden, but it's just like, then I just want my eyes to be all the more open, so I know what's happening, and I'm not just chalking it up as, okay, Isaiah's sad because he's not going to get to walk in May.
Yeah. I think another realization too, just from kind of some of the conversation, is going into it, I was very like optimistic. Not saying that I'm not now, but it's definitely kind of hit me more like when things started happening. I was still trying to say, I always try to look at the brighter side of things before I look at the the downside of things, and that's something I did for myself, because I get consumed, like I said, when if it's something negative, like when I can't have that sense of control over what's going on. I think I was so kind of like, maybe it's not going to be that bad, or things will be all right. But as see things going on, I guess it's been almost going into 2 months of this what it was called, like quarantine, staying home order, just the overall pandemic really impacting people's lives. So I guess you just in the beginning I took it not more lighthearted, but I was just trying to stay more optimistic about it, just because I know how I could get. But when you're kind of like in it, you don't take the time, like you said, to feel it. And I think that's something that I'm feeling now, especially when I came home, because anytime I usually come home, it's like it's a break for me. Like, okay, it's Christmas break, or I'm just coming home for the weekend, or whatever. But this point it was just kind of like coming home because I wanted to see family, but there's nothing else to do. Like it's just like the state of what things are right now. So
yeah. And that's one thing, like how I try to stay positive is to always have something to look forward to, big or small. And that's been my struggle, is that like there's not much to look forward to.
Yeah.
And that might be one way that, that I maneuver through low points, because I'm like, all right, well, here's something good. I'm going to be spending time with family doing this, or with my girlfriends doing this, or some kind of milestone. But without that, it's really a struggle to just like find those things that are going to continue to motivate you.
Yeah, definitely. I think just admitting that something is bothering you too. I think prior to like the conversation we had like over the weekend, is really admitting that like it's bothering me. Of course, I knew like it was a thing, but I wasn't trying to let it kind of overshadow things I had going on, things I had planned. But just admitting that something is bothering you is like kind of a big step. I think that's for everyone in any situation. You admit that something is bothering you, or something is making you feel a type of way. It doesn't necessarily make it easier, but at least it's present to where know the source of like why you're feeling this way, and not getting it confused with like something else. So.
Yeah. And like I said before, just giving yourself the right to feel that way, instead of fighting it. Like it sucks. That doesn't mean that everything sucks, and that doesn't mean that we can't wake up every day and find something to smile about. We can, but at the same time, this is unprecedented times, and the ability to self-motivate absent your usual influences and resources is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And so, like I said, that's why I see a lot of posting on social media about, being sad about not walking and, you know, proms and whatnot. But I think people make it out to be a little bit more trivial
I think it's more
than it actually is.
I think it's more. It's not necessarily the event. The events are important, but it's deeper than that. Like, it doesn't stem from the, like, we're not gonna have a graduation, because that's kind of how it was at school. Like, we want this commencement is with schedule, but it's not even necessary. Like, that's my thing. Like, of course, I appreciate the graduation. But my thing has always been just the moment of like transitioning into the next step, or just like you said, those are like milestones. And I think that's more so what it is than the actual physical event or the big gathering. It's actually like, these different milestones in life that,
it's the markers. So if you're running a race or if you're running on a track, you have something there to indicate when you've reached a quarter mile, half mile, whatever. And that's kind of sometimes what helps get you to the next point. Like, you're not looking at the marker at the finish line. First of all, you can't even see it, right? But you are looking at that next immediate marker and like, if I could just, will myself to get to that point until you see that next marker and the next marker. But what this situation created is an elimination of a lot of those markers, even in terms of people who are losing loved ones and trying to figure out how to grieve those loved ones in such a strange time without having that marker of a funeral and a repast and everything that's associated, to mark the passing of a loved one. Like, that's gone. So there's so many markers that have just been eliminated, and now we're just trying to like find a way, like kind of find our way through without really understanding when something begins and ends. And not a lot of direction around like how to replace those things. Yeah. Because no one expected this to be the case. Like, it wasn't top of mind for me as far as things that we needed to worry about. I think what was on my mind was a potential, in terms of globally, was the potential of a war. Just kind of given some of the political dynamics that we won't talk about, but certainly a pandemic was the last thing on my mind. So just trying to figure out how to move without having those milestones and those markers. So what if anything, if you think about it like that, could you put in place to begin to have something to look forward to? It's okay if you haven't thought of it yet. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out too.
I haven't. And it's not like I haven't as like giving up. It's just I haven't. I mean, I'm still, finishing up classes, have, things outside of school plans. So, just finishing up strong. I'm going to get my degree either way. I mean, that'll just be, special in itself. Like, just remember first I walked into college, just thinking I, really made it through. So, I mean, I'm still valuing everything. Like, at the end of the day, I'm still going to get a degree. It's not like my schooling was affected as far as, me not being able to graduate or anything like that. So, I mean, I think, like, that's a blessing in itself. So, it's like, despite when everything, transitions to, what the new world looks like, but I'll, have my degree, so I'll just be, grateful for that. And I think that's the, biggest thing I can still, look forward to. I'm grateful that, my family, immediate family is here, and I still, we're able to become just this communication aspect. I'm talking to a lot of people more, catching up with people I haven't spoken to, just being able to be here right now, or just, spending, some weeks at home when I normally would be at school. So, just different elements of that you just kind of, take it for what it is. So I'm not trying to get, too consumed in it, but as far as like what I'm specifically, seeing, of course, like closing my laptop and being done with college is like going to be an interesting feeling. That's that. I guess that's what I'm thinking of. That the next morning.
I remember, now that you say that, when I finished my master's program, we ended up celebrating when I submitted my last assignment. So that's something we could celebrate. It wasn't planned for, it wasn't a big ceremony, but I think Darren bought a nice bottle of rosé, and I forget what all we did, but it turned into something to celebrate. So that's one thing you could let me know when you plan to push that button and submit the last assignment. And I mean, I didn't expect to like have that moment of celebration. I don't know why I didn't, but it was like, oh crap, like this is the last assignment done. And graduation, actual ceremony wasn't until like 3 or so weeks later, but that became a moment to celebrate. And then of course, so we'll have a virtual ceremony, which I am glad that SCAD is doing that, because even for people who the ceremonies are postponed, some of them are now postponed to 2021. And I just couldn't see a gap of not doing anything. So fortunately, his school, they're doing some kind of digital experience. Isaiah's a bit skeptical as far as what that might look like. But it's something it's a moment that will certainly, you know, make special, and it's something that's unique. They're gonna be some unique experiences that you're having that are positive that others never had. And that once this is over and you get to the other side, you'll be able to look back and say, oh, you know, that was kind of cool. You know, if it had to happen that way.
For sure.
And my hope too is that, you know, employers will be looking at the class of 2020 with some sort of favor, is understanding how difficult your experiences were. And like, 'cause again, you guys will just have some stories to tell that others didn't. You'll have some fire stories to tell your children about. I don't care how hard it was. I lived through a pandemic. My graduation got canceled. So that we know that there's a brighter side. It's just because we've never been through an experience like this, we can't even imagine what that brighter side might be. And I think if I think about it spiritually, I think, you know, because I don't think God did this to us, but I do think he allows certain things to happen. And I think he only allows those things to happen for the sake of the greater good. And so one of the lessons I'm finding in this is around the control piece that you talked about. You get it honestly from your mama. That we have to relinquish some control. Because we can have good plans, but we can't be so inflexible that it's devastating when things don't go exactly by design. And the fact that control is overwhelming as well. And all you can do is, you know, trust in your faith, obviously, but also trust in the investments that you've made. As a student, as an artist, like that doesn't go away. That doesn't evaporate. And like I told you too about, like, as far as your education, that doesn't evaporate. Everything that you learned, all the skills, the talent, your creativity, that isn't gone. Even if you don't know exactly how you're going to apply it, even if you don't get an opportunity for another year. Let's hope that's not the case, but it's still yours. And you'll find some way, like, to maneuver and make the most of it.
For sure. I guess I know that's the, you know, best way to look at it is, you know what you're capable of doing, and, you know, this is how you react to it and how you how you go about it. I think just like I said, like realizing, accepting what's kind of going on, how you feel about a situation, but now that you like aware of these things and you know how you feel about these things, how are you gonna react to it, and what are you gonna do, you know, next? But not even make it a pressure and thing, or feeling like, oh, like, you know, it's like a thing, but just in general, I think it'll overall make you feel better. I think even just looking at it, thinking about it like that right now is just you know, way to make you feel better in a situation.
Yeah, and the reality is too, like, you have a home. And so there's some pressure that, you know, we talked about even before all of this. Like, even under the best case scenario, if a job opportunity didn't come up right in June, you still have the luxury of being able to come home. Whereas that might not be the case, you know, for everyone. It's not like you needed to find a job so you could figure out how you're going to eat the next meal or put a roof over your head. And so you could also look at this as an opportunity to, however things play out, there's no real pressure, with the exception of pressure that you put on yourself based on your expectation, like what you want for yourself in life. But we never said, by golly, Isaiah, by the time you get that degree, you need to have had it all figured out. So this throws a little wrench in the game, and hell, it's still early May. We don't know what might come in the next couple weeks or so. But if things are delayed, there's no immediate pressure for you to have everything figured out. You can eat here as long as you want, as long as you're grinding, being productive. So, yep. So, what would you say to your colleagues, your graduating seniors in 2020? That's just the irony of it all. It was just like the class of 2020, right? Like everybody was expecting something so special and dynamic, and we just didn't know how special.
Just the year period, it was just going into. But I mean, I guess my biggest thing, I've kind of just been saying this to everybody. I mean, just like cherish the moment, cherish people around you. Take the just take that time. Like it's here to pick up the phone and give somebody a call you haven't talked to, and just having that sense of, because things are on standstill, just if you can take that pause or take that break, like you can. I think kind of accepting in that, and I mean that's the way I looked at it, as like I was saying, like January through like mid-March was every day something. So having it's a sad thing, but there's also a bright side to it too. Is just having that extra family time, or having that extra personal time. Or I've been enjoying being on my own sleep schedule and being able to work in my own way. So I mean, just look at it like that. Like pull some of the positive things out of the negatives, because the more you focus on the negatives, of course, the more you're going to be consumed by it. And I just think, just stay, optimistic about your, future, and still work towards something. Don't just stop because the world has stopped. Still, like, have aspirations to do something, and don't let it, like, beat you up, too much as far as like what's next. So I guess that's my advice to everyone. At least that's how I'm, looking at things as of now. So.
Yeah, and the one thing that you said that just about the, day to day, like always having something to do. One thing I'm still trying to catch myself is like the feeling like rushed, because you always have something to do. Even like just getting ready in the morning, like I have to slow myself down for rushing. I'm like, there's nowhere to go. I am not on anybody's clock. So just having the opportunity to slow down and take a breath and just not be on that kind of autopilot, is a break that we all needed and wanted. We didn't know how it was going to come, but I remember just having conversations like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's Friday already. Oh my gosh, time is moving so quickly. Like, I wish I could just slow down. And so now, again, this isn't the way that we wanted it to come, but we're getting what we asked for. So we have to appreciate that part of it too.
Yeah, definitely.
So, take a little bit of that pressure off and gain some sanity that way, while you're dealing with the emotions of what comes along with it, because again, we didn't anticipate that it would come in a package of a pandemic. So just wanted to, like I said, have like an unscripted conversation, and we're definitely going to try to bring more of our conversations online. I absolutely love that Isaiah's at an age where we can have really good conversation. It's not just me talking to him or talking at him. Like if I have a challenge, he's at that age where he has enough life experience where I can call and get his input or be motivated. And so he and I had talked for, at least a year or so now about doing something like this, but just not making the time between my work schedule and his school schedule. And then also feeling like I'm the kind of person where I wanted to make sure everything was perfect first, like have the right production and all of that. We're on Zoom and whatnot all the time, and production and production quality does not bear the same weight as it did several weeks ago. So quarantine, pandemic has allowed us an opportunity to do this. So that's something good and something to look forward to, because we'll do more. But just encourage parents and loved ones to reach out and really check in with your seniors. Go a little bit deeper than the fact that they're missing prom or doing things to recreate those celebrations. I think that's great. I'm seeing people do proms at home and things along those lines. But in addition to trying to compensate for the experiential part of these milestones, check in so that, just see how they're feeling about all of this emotionally. So, anything else, son?
Okay. We got to, make a video. Really,
Me too. Finally. So thanks for sitting in, and we'll be back. Bye.